Have you ever met someone who is never, ever at fault? No matter what goes wrong, it's always someone else's mistake. It's someone else's bad attitude. It's someone else's problem. And after a while, you just have to wonder, do they actually believe this? Or are they just avoiding something? It's a frustrating and confusing experience. Today, we're going to dive deep into why some people always blame others. And you'll see that this behavior often has less to do with simple arrogance and a lot more to do with deep-seated psychological self-protection. It's a fascinating look into the human mind, so stick around. At first glance, when someone constantly blames others, it's easy to label them. We might think they're immature, that they lack accountability, or even that they're a narcissist. And while those things can sometimes be true psychologically, blame often serves a much deeper purpose. Think about what it takes to accept responsibility. It requires a sense of emotional safety, a stable foundation of self-worth, and the ability to tolerate discomfort and difficult feelings. When those key ingredients are missing, a person's brain starts looking for an escape route. Blame is the fastest, most direct escape route available. It's a shortcut away from pain. So, instead of facing the internal struggle of admitting fault, the brain redirects that energy outward. It's not necessarily a conscious choice to be difficult. It's an instinctual reaction to a perceived threat to their sense of self. It's a defense mechanism kicking into high gear, choosing the path of least emotional resistance. To understand this better, we need to talk about the ego. Your ego isn't inherently your enemy. Its primary job is actually quite simple: to protect your sense of self, your identity. When something happens that threatens how you see yourself, like a failure, a rejection, or harsh criticism, the ego immediately reacts. For some people, that reaction is to pause, reflect, and learn. But for others, the reaction is to defend. Blame is one of the ego's most powerful defense mechanisms. Because if you were the one who caused the problem, then you'd have to face a flood of uncomfortable emotions: guilt for your actions, shame for your failure, and a feeling of inadequacy. Blaming someone else allows you to sidestep all of that. It's like a psychological shield that deflects the negative feelings away from you and onto another target. The ego's logic is simple. If it's not my fault, I don't have to feel bad about myself. It's a way to preserve a fragile self-image, even if it comes at the expense of truth and healthy relationships. One of the most common and fascinating reasons people blame others is a psychological concept called projection. Projection happens when you have a thought, feeling, or trait that you find uncomfortable or unacceptable in yourself. But because you can't bring yourself to accept it, your brain unconsciously assigns it to someone else. You literally see your own flaws in other people. For example, someone who is deeply insecure about their own intelligence might constantly call other people arrogant or know-it-alls. A person who secretly struggles with laziness and avoids responsibility might be the first to label their coworkers as lazy. Someone who is consumed by guilt might accuse others of having bad intentions. This isn't a conscious lie or a deliberate attempt to manipulate. It's a form of psychological displacement. The brain is essentially saying, I can't handle this feeling being a part of me, so I'm going to make it about you instead. It's a way to externalize an internal conflict, making the other person the container for the very things they can't face in themselves. In many ways, blame also acts as a form of emotional armor. It's a heavy, rigid suit that protects people from very specific vulnerabilities. It shields them from feeling powerless, from having to admit they made a mistake, and from revisiting old, painful wounds. For many people who are chronic blamers, this pattern was learned very early in life. They might have grown up in an environment where making mistakes wasn't safe. Perhaps accountability always led to severe punishment, or showing vulnerability was met with rejection or ridicule. In that kind of setting, the brain adapts to survive. It learns that admitting fault is dangerous. So, blame becomes a survival strategy. It's a way to protect oneself in a world that has taught them that being imperfect is unacceptable. This armor, forged in childhood, comes so ingrained that they carry it into their adult relationships, automatically deflecting blame to stay safe, even when the original threat is long gone. This brings us to a really important point. You can't argue someone out of blame. You can present all the facts, all the logic, all the evidence in the world, but it won't work. Why? Because blame isn't a logical issue, it's an emotional one. When you directly challenge someone's blame, You're not just questioning their version of events. You're threatening their ego's entire defense system. A threatened ego doesn't listen to reason. It doesn't open up to new perspectives. It doubles down and defends even harder. This is why arguments with chronic blamers often feel like you're going in circles. You're trying to solve the problem and find a logical solution, while they are subconsciously fighting to protect their fragile sense of self. They aren't engaging in a debate to find the truth. They're engaging in a battle to stay emotionally safe. So, what does all of this mean for you, the person on the receiving end of the blame? Here's the key takeaway. When someone constantly blames others, they are not demonstrating strength, power, or confidence. They are revealing their own fragility. Their behavior is a sign of an underlying emotional vulnerability. Now, this doesn't excuse their actions or make it okay for them to treat you poorly. But understanding the psychology behind it can completely change how you respond. And it helps you recognize when a situation is not about finding accountability, but about dealing with someone's defense mechanisms. So, the next time you're dealing with someone who can never, ever seem to take responsibility, just remember this. Their blame isn't a sign of confidence. It's a form of defense. It's their armor. And sometimes, the loudest and most insistent accusations are just there to protect the quietest, most deeply hidden fears. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more insights into psychology and human behavior.